Hey everyone, it's 11:32 p.m. on May the 17th. I'm going to do a quick video on some interesting trades that arrived today that I think are meaningful in the grand scheme of where we are with the indexes. So what we have here is the disproportionately large trade screen, and I have it filtered to just 4 tickers: UVXY, AMD, Nvidia, and Microsoft. And specifically, I want to talk about these 4 highlighted trades that are right here. There were others that came in as well, but these are the 4 that count for me. So we'll start with UVXY. This came in at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. It was 1.6 million shares at $3.30. That's about a $5.5 million trade. It's not, off the charts large, but it's the largest thing we've had in a while. And it's the first one in 2 months that's large enough to even show up on the scanner as disproportionately large. So I want to talk about it. And what we have here is a chart since the last time a trade of this size has arrived, which was March the 22nd. And that preceded a volatility spike here. And this lasted, I'm not sure, maybe a couple sessions, 3 sessions, hard to tell. But it went from about $5 to $6.50. And we sold off in SPY and QQQ during that same period of time. If we look back just a little bit further, we can see there were actually 3 trades here that came in sequence over the course of the 21st and the 22nd. As volatility was declining here and getting crushed, these trades came in. And the reason I wanted to bring them to your attention is because in this specific case, it was a full day before the first one arrived. This one arrived at 11:48 a.m. on March the 21st, and the one that at the low here arrived at 2:04 p.m. on March the 22nd. So there was about a 24-hour lag or so between the time at which this first trade arrived and the time at which UVXY stopped dropping and began to spike. It actually kind of spiked here and retraced and then spiked a little further. So this is meaningful because we never know if this, well, we never know if this is a buy or a sell, but I think it's a buy. And but what we don't know is if this is going to be the only trade before we get a move up, or if it's one of potentially many. There's really no way to know. But I've seen it where one big one comes in, and the most common case is where we see a spike in volatility, and it lasts anywhere from 1 session to a few sessions or a week maybe. And that also is there's no way to know how long. But I've also seen it occasionally where it has a lag, and it's 24 hours or so where the trade arrives, volatility continues to decline, and then at some point it bottoms and it recovers quickly, and we get sort of a false breakdown that is where the price of the trade is exceeded the next day, and then we see some substantial amount of volatility. That's the second use case. And the third use case is that this is a sell. They're going to crush volatility some more. This is just going to go straight down for a while. And that's the least common scenario for a large UVXY trade. I mean, we do see lots of small UVXY trades come in every day. And as you can tell by this chart, or any chart of UVXY, it does tend to just sort of decay forever, which should come as no surprise to anybody who's been paying attention to this thing. So that said, my expectation is that this is a buy, and that this suggests that the rally that we've seen over the last several weeks in the indexes may be coming to a close. The timing of which, of course, we can also not know. This is just one potential signal among many. The next thing I want to talk about is AMD. I put a tweet out about this as well. This is this trade came in today at the high. It's the largest trade since March 17th, which was an OPEX day. Today was not OPEX. Today was today was Volex actually, but not typically associated with tons of volume here. And so I think this is meaningful. It also comes right here at the top after a sharp rally that's really only been 2 weeks or so, not even 2 weeks. This suggests to me that it's selling, given the placement of it. And then if we look at this AMD chart, which I also put out, this pretty obvious pattern here where we get these really highly ranked trades These three are, of course, higher than the one we got today, but all within the top 40. And they tend to appear at or near significant local highs. This one here, I think, came right at the high, and the next day we started getting selling. This one arrived, and then it took a few days of chop before we got anything meaningful. And really, the sell that we got from this was maybe not so meaningful. We got another one here. It took a couple days. We got a little bit of overshoot, and then we got a sell. And who knows what this one will bring. We may get some overshoot. We may not. We do have OPEX coming up on Friday, and I've kind of been assuming that everything will just sort of rally into it, and so far that's mostly been true. All the major components of the indexes have been more or less pushing higher. A few exceptions like Apple, for example, which has just been high and stayed high. It hasn't really been pushing further, but Nvidia and AMD and Microsoft and others have been really, really pushing heavily. So it's possible that this is it. It's possible that there's a little bit more. And of course, you know, it's always possible there's a lot more. It just doesn't seem probable given the placement of this trade, the size of it, and what tends to happen when these large trades do arrive, at least in recent history. This goes back to the October low, so this is over the last 8 or so months. Microsoft, big trade here today at the close, ranks 42nd. Just like with all the other ones, you can expect to see the largest trades arriving at or near highs or peaks and lows as well. So this to me suggests that this is selling into the end of a rally. Again, this doesn't necessarily have to be the top. Price can go higher, and that even if price does go a little higher here, it wouldn't suggest to me that this was buying. This would still, I think, be selling. We'd have to go a lot higher for a lot longer for me to change my mind on that. Even here, this to me, this could be selling because we got this really sharp move after earnings, selling, and then we can get maybe some consolidation, and then it continues up higher. So, and this is just another reminder that selling doesn't always mean reversal. It doesn't always mean price is going to stop on a dime and change course. It does happen from time to time, but the more common occurrence is that institutions sell as price is rising, price continues forward, but they get their fills before price actually stops. And that's intentional because they're moving a lot of inventory and they need to ensure that their trades get filled, and they can't get filled on the edges at the very, very, very tips and ends of moves in either direction. So I wouldn't be shocked to see this maybe go up a little bit further, perhaps into Friday, perhaps not, tough to tell. But it does suggest to me that we are nearing the end and that risk is to the downside. Moving over to Nvidia. Man, I was tracking this closely for a while, a couple months back, and I was dead wrong on it. I really, this is a very unique use case where it was getting so much volume for such a long period of time. Highly, highly ranked trades over and over and over again, which are generally consistent with selling. And this is one of maybe only 2 use cases I can think of where we were sitting at a high and volume came in hard and price just didn't quit. So that said, we still got a really large trade today. It ranks in the top 40. It comes right here after this rally has now breached 300. Nice round number, psychological level, if you will. There's still not a lot of volume up here yet, so perhaps there needs to be some time for it to for them to sell more. And given how far it's run, for how long, it wouldn't shock me to see it stick around up here and distribute if in fact that's what's happening here. So while I acknowledge Nvidia has been on an absolute tear for months now, it does have to end at some point. So given that what we've seen in Microsoft and AMD and UVXY, these are all things suggesting the same outcome, which is that a reversal is near. The timing of which maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday, maybe it's next week after OPEX and we see more large trades, which wouldn't shock me at all. In fact, I'm kind of expecting Friday to be sort of an orgy of of large trades across the mega caps and some of the more important names and the indexes and so on. So we'll see. Next, I want to look at QQQ. This one, I don't have any trades shown intentionally. I just have levels. But the main point I want to illustrate here is that price is now approaching the August high. I think it got as high as 334.42, so perhaps there's just a little bit more. You know, hindsight's 20/20. I did not expect it to get this far. I'm surprised, but here we are. So I think this is a reasonable place to target. Everything as far as indicators go are quite extended, so perhaps this will be the resistance level that it does finally respect after having overcome this one here and this one here and this one from this here. So August high, we're awfully close. Maybe we hit it, maybe we don't, but not much room left. And then SPY, this is a little bit trickier. We've been in this really tight range for the last, I don't know, month and a half-ish since April began. You can see not much movement, while QQQ has continued to march forward. It tells me that breadth is poor, participation is low, and all of the movement that we're seeing is heavily weighted into QQQ, less so in SPY. But it is yet to breach the February high. So I'm still considering this to be an important resistance level. We got close here a couple times. Price still, despite all the moves in Microsoft and Nvidia and even Apple and some of the other ones, can't get there. So, you know, maybe we get a little spike up, maybe we don't, but I'm not impressed. And I think that it's reasonable to assume, again, once we see all these other big trades in these large components and we get the UVXY, which does not typically tend to arrive unless we're at a turn, I think we're very close. So that's it. UVXY here, you can see how it generally responds. And I've done other videos in UVXY in the past. If you want to go back and revisit them, I did a few over the fall where I went into more detail about what happens when these prints arrive. So those principles and concepts would remain true if you want to go back and refresh yourself on what typically happens when UVXY prints large. AMD, more AMD. This one to me is just so obvious. Big trade right into a high, and we get a pullback. And this is still a a higher lows pattern. So I'm not necessarily expecting that we get a pullback that goes lower than this low here. I mean, it's possible, but I think the the higher, I think the meat of the move, whenever it begins, is going to be between 100 and 85 or so. And then we'll see. Maybe there's more, maybe not. But it would be harder for me to picture this continuing straight up further from here without a pullback first. Microsoft and Nvidia, and that's it. So as always, if you have questions, you can send me an email. There's a link down here in the bottom of the site. You can send me a DM on Twitter. You can find me all sorts of places. There's a YouTube channel, which this will be posted on, and anybody who wants to try the site, it's free for a week. Give it a shot. If you like it, great. You can subscribe. Lots of different packages to choose from. If it's not for you, that's cool too. And there's always stuff out there that's available for free. Just as a reminder, these tickers here, there are 12 of them. They are always free. Accounts are free. So if you want to see financials or industrials or energy or biotechs or whatever, pop in anytime.